welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, just a good old not being able to put down drifter from Arkansas, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and sheep of the nation,
Alex Dandino.
All right, before today's just thrilling business, right? Thrilling episode. We have business. That's right, business. People, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show, the best way to get more out of the show, right? We have a giant library of Patreon-exclusive episodes. We got a new miniseries that started covering every episode of Tales from the Crypt over there if you like that. You get your commentary. You can even get us to do a double feature for you. And you get a vote on the movies that we cover every month as exclusive. So, guys, it means a lot to us for those of you who do support us. Thank you. If you like this show, it would mean a lot to us if you support. Even $1 a month helps out, guys. If we just bring you guys in, right, the total listening audience, that would help us out a ton. The other thing we'd ask, tell a friend, man. If you're listening to the show and you like it, share it with one friend. Send a text, tag them on Twitter, whatever, just if Twitter's around. Just let them know to come join the fun over at the show. All right. The YouTube, Film Alchemist, the email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Go ahead and get a hold of us. We're on all the social media, too. And if you would be so kind, leave 5-star rating and reviews everywhere and anywhere you find the show. And go over and support us, even for just $1 a month. FilmAlchemistPod at patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. I can't. I'm just a simple man, right? I'm one of the
simple Arkansas fella.
I'm one of the people here. You know, I'm just an Orson Welles for the people. That's, you know, I can't remember all these business marketing.
Orson Welles would never have done that. No, not
yeah,
that
no, I would never do these business plugins for these rascals over on Patreon. That's just below me. You know, I'm just
a little too southern for Orson Welles.
So we're gonna talk today about a movie, right? This January, the pod makes resolutions, right? My resolution: get more involved in my community. And I thought a good movie to represent that. I'm not really going to do that in real life. I don't even go to HOA meetings, but I thought it'd make a good resolution. So we're going to go with A Face in the Crowd. Elia Kazan, starring Andy Griffith. So I don't know.
Film debut, Andy Griffith.
Film debut. So I don't know about everyone, but in every household I spent time in as a kid, the Andy Griffith Show was damn near religion. Ultra important popular show for all of my relatives.
Yep.
The good old town of Mayberry, right? Sheriff Andy Griffith, Don Knotts as Barney Fife, Aunt Bee, Opie, who went on to be a great director, right? Ron Howard.
Yep.
It was just this kind of folksy good time. Like, oh, look at these country lessons you can learn about being a good person and a good neighbor and a good father. So I grew up on that Andy Griffith, right? So I remember seeing this, and I was like, Andy Griffith was in a movie, all right. And I was like, I'll check it out. It melted my fucking face. The Andy Griffith I knew and loved was gone.
Yes.
And this movie has regained steam because it's kind of this, more than the King Has No Clothes, right? This is very much the Trump story. So it has regained some popularity. But I just think this movie is, I mean, it's a fucking fireball. Directed right at the American, you know, the American dream, at the idea of American politicians who will save us, of our hero. We love heroes in this country. Hero worship's our thing. And so they took one of our greatest moral icons and just had him burn it to the fucking ground. And this movie kicks all the asses. Alex, opening thoughts on A Face in the Crowd.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating when you watch a movie like this after you've like only spent your lifetime associating with the Andy Griffith Show, like Matlock. Like this is literally,
that's right. I forgot about Matlock.
This is literally the bit. Like all of our parents go home and watch like Murder, She Wrote and Matlock. Like that's the joke. Is like, oh, old people watch Andy Griffith because he reminds them of a simpler time. It's fascinating to watch this movie, not just because it's now 2023 and because literally it's the story of not just Trump, but like Tucker Carlson and all these other political pundits who have become,
maybe more the political pundits.
I would say much more like the people that we bitch about on Fox News, like Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Coulter, like all these people who have lightning rodded some aspect of our personalities. that's really what a face in the crowd is about. It's about this one person that you can, who is, now here's the thing, like, I guess I wouldn't call Ann Coulter this person, but like Hannity and Tucker Carlson.
Because everyone hates Ann Coulter. That's the problem.
Right. Hannity and Tucker Carlson are great examples of simple, dumb people who found a way to be on television and said things.
You want to know what it is, actually?
That connected.
It's Trump. Andy Griffith in this movie is what people who vote for Trump imagine him as. He's one of us. In reality, he's a 1% of the 1%. He lives in a golden tower. He can't stand the people that like him.
Yeah.
So he's what they think he is, right?
He eats taco bowls and cheeseburgers.
He doesn't even use dressing on his salads. It's just Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And the tears of his fucking rival. But there is something, right? This is kind of because I actually think this is a perfect pairing with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah.
It's the two edges, because, right, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is, we live in a democracy. I can make a difference movie. And I think as we've gotten older, most of us realize we don't really live in a true democracy, right?
Right.
Like, if you live in certain states, your vote counts more than other people's votes. That's crazy, right?
I think what's interesting, though... Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, but... So I think this is the... Yeah, this is the, we all think we have this thing, right? Freedom is our thing. Freedom, my voice matters. And this movie kind of pulls the mask off of that. And it's like, I think but really you're getting these fucking crazy people to go throw Molotov cocktails for you.
Right. I liked how you said, though, it's like it's the two edges of the same sword. Because, like, I do think that, Mr. Smith goes to Washington is very much, this is a democracy. My voice matters.
Yeah, the little man can do good.
Right. And then the other side of that is the exact same sentence with different inflection, which is, this is democracy. My voice matters. It is like this sinister tonality.
This fuck Curly, right? This bald fuck.
Yeah.
And I can take him from, I'm a man who has to matter. I have to be a prestigious, noble man. And he goes, nah, call yourself Curly. Come to my fucking Cracker Barrel and talk shit. And it's like, what? But you see how he bends.
Well, this is the story of literally everybody who's been able to prop up. And look, Trump is an easy one because, like, quite frankly, he's been the polarizing political figure of our times. But this is like anybody who goes to the microphone for a political person who we think are just,
now there's hundreds of Trumps. Like, he broke the mold, and now everyone's like, that's what I'm going to do.
Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people who have relatively no talent or thought process whatsoever have found a way to become part of the constituency in a way that is so ingrained in everybody's life that you think they're like you, and they're really not. Like, there's just... And again, this is the first person. Like, what's interesting, I think, about Lonesome Rhodes, which is Andrew Griffith's character, is that he's like the first person. He's that, because again, I'm not going to jump to the end because I think the end is really interesting with Mel's thing about like sort of his predictions, because his predictions are exactly what happens to these kinds of people. But like people who start out in politics who realize they have a lot of clout just because of the way they talk, end up becoming this person who bears like what people call the swamp in DC, bear those people who are career politicians. Like Lonesome Rhodes isn't a career politician, but he breeds like 5 of them. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Well,
he's the origin story to give you street cred.
Yes. His is sinister in the, essentially imagine Ira Glass finds him in a prison, right? They're doing this.
Totally.
This
oh my God.
program,
absolutely. That is exactly what I thought of when I saw the opener.
He's just in a jail and they're like, we need someone. He's like, I'll let you free tomorrow. We don't know what he did. Was it just drunkenness? Was he doing, and they're like, we'll let you off tomorrow if you perform.
He's apparently drunk all the time too.
Yeah. And he has that line that is such a great summation of the movie, right? What do I get out of this? I mean, me, myself, and I. And it's like, all right, you'll get out, right? And then he starts, a guitar beats a woman every time. And he's like, oh, freedom. And I love it, too, because Andy Griffith's voice is a cheese grater in this movie. But, like, an industrial strength, like, destroy your enemy's medieval torture cheese grater. It's like, I mean...
It's like this terrifying Iron Maiden of a voice.
It's like if I only talked in the first word of this podcast for the whole podcast, that's what he's doing. And it's so in your face and obnoxious and telling you, don't fucking like me. Don't stay around me.
Right.
But he has this folksiness, right? So they bring him into the fold. Next thing you know, he just starts with these fucking country witticisms. Mm-hmm. He's just making stories up, and people are like, "Oh, that's." And next thing you know, he's amassing an audience. He's getting women. People are buying him drinks. But the real moment you see it at the start of this is when that sheriff whoops his ass in the bar, right? Yep. Like gives him black eyes. And the next day, he's like, "I'm going to have my revenge. I've got a voice now," right?
Yeah.
And so he does the, I think this guy's an idiot. We shouldn't elect him. Send your dogs to his house.
Right.
And so what starts in the movie is, oh, that's kind of funny, right? Like the sheriff's like a prick. Right. He got some revenge on him, right? He's going to have like hundreds of dog shits on his yard, whatever. But you see in his face, he's like, oh. And it's just beautifully doled out, right? This isn't a man who seemingly is going to start like, I'm going to crush everything in my path. Mm-hmm. But he sees it. He sees the road, and as we learn, he's this narcissistic whatever. But I thought that scene was brilliant.
Well, it's like one of those things where you see, it's like getting everything you ever wanted, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, it's the real person. Like, it's that adage that, if you want to see somebody if you want to see, like, give someone everything they ever wanted, and then you'll see the real person. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this level, like, especially with the sheriff thing. Like, that's terrifying. Because that's happened how many goddamn times in our lifetime? Like, you and I are in our late 30s, and we've seen that, I can't even count how many times, where it dawns on them that they have the ability to sway people in a way.
That's what she says, right? What does it feel like? Saying anything that comes into your head and sway people like that.
Yeah.
Woo.
Like,
that's scary.
And that's the other thing, too. Like, I think Patricia Neal's character is so... she's just so, how do I put this? She's there for it. Like, that I think is a really important thing, is like,
she's watching the American dream birthed in front of her.
Right. Like, but here's the thing. She's watching the American dream, but it is exactly what we're talking about. It's not that Capra-esque beautiful American dream that we all want Jimmy Stewart to die on the floor of the house.
It starts with women just sending him pies and him telling folksy stories, right? Even the fact that the town he made up doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. He never says where Riddle is. There's probably no town called Riddle. Riddle is this amalgamation of all the towns, right? That
even if there is, they don't know. Like, even if there is, they don't know him. He just saw it on. Maybe he just saw it somewhere.
There couldn't have been. They didn't show that in the movie. Like, I think they're letting us know this guy is a con man of sorts. Right, sure. But he just never had the microphone. And so she sees, oh, this is just a guy who had bad beats. But look at how fucking charming he is. Of course you would want to be at the core of that story, right? Like, look, this guy just had bad beats, but look at how much he has to offer, right? And then we see him as he ascends up to TV, right? Now he, he does his classic, I don't understand how this mechanism works. I'm going to walk off camera and just talk to you. I'm going to insult the mattress boy. Like, I don't give a fucks about nothing.
It's that... That's and again, that politician
does
thing.
Does that not feel like what we're dealing with now, where there are rules and norms, and if you follow those, you're out. You have to be this fucking asshole all the time.
Well, it reminds me of there's a scene from one of the seasons of Veep where they're all doing they're doing a debate, and all of them. One guy steps out. He's one of the guys is the Orioles manager, and he steps out from behind the podium and starts walking around. And I was like, can he do that? Is that allowed? Are you allowed to do that? And it's like, it's the exact same principle. It's like, oh, how do I endear myself to the American people? Well, I'll just pretend I'm one of you.
What is it about us, though? Because that is the oldest trick in the book. It's like, I don't follow the rules. I'm like you. That is the oldest fucking trick in the book, but we love it.
Because we all, this is I'm just getting very political, but I'm going to say this is like really what I think.
It's kind of hard in this movie not
but
to.
But that's what this movie is. Like,
it's a political
This is what I
thriller.
truly. This is sort of like the general public, in my opinion, always thinks they're getting a raw deal. Like, I don't know anybody from.
I specifically hate like 99.9 of every politician.
Yeah, like I don't think but even beyond like not liking politics or politicians. Like,
you think they're always out for themselves. They're always out like. Not to help you.
Everybody thinks, like, Gavin Newsom's a great example. Like, I think Gavin Newsom is Gavin Newsom, and he's just, he's a rich guy who's governor, and that's the end of the conversation.
I think he's like everyone else. He gets his little pamphlets about this went well, that went well, the haircut's good, we'll change it. I think they're all fucking robots.
Right, exactly. So, like, we're conditioned in this culture to pretty much not believe anything that comes out of their mouths.
Right.
So when we see someone who steps out from behind the podium to talk to us, like he just wants to have a conversation with you because you're a real American. I don't know your struggles. I don't know your life. We think that that's genuine. We think that there's something about that.
You think we would have our dander up about that, though? Like, we just know.
But we don't, because we think that sort of Lonesome Road's charm is somehow that means they're real. Like, if you really met these people and talked to them like they were real people, no. Like, there's just, once cameras are off, they're cunning. All of them are. Like, there's at least,
the act of perception changes what's being perceived every time.
I worked on a documentary. I worked on a documentary in 2019 called The Swamp, and it was this. We followed like Matt Gaetz and Thomas Massey and Chip Roy around, and they all know their brand. Like, it's a very specific thing, and they all know what things to say and how to do their fundraising, that kind of thing. Like, Thomas Massey is probably the only person who doesn't understand how fundraising works, and it's because he's a fucking nerd who's an engineering guy and never like expected to be a politician. He owns like 20 some patents or some shit, and he his whole shtick in government though is that he says no to everything. And you're like, okay, cool, great, that's your bit, but like that makes him folksy for the people of Kentucky because see, he doesn't play into that government thing. He doesn't let them push him around. It's like,
right?
No, that's not what it is at all.
This is even more. Because this is right. He's not voting on Lonesome Roads. Isn't voting on things.
No.
That matter.
Lonesome Roads is worse because Lonesome Roads is telling people what to think. This is like where it's Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity instead.
Right. But this, because you see it start right, and he's like, "I hate this. I'm not doing this mattress thing. I'm a good old boy. I'm here. They'll let him fire me. They're fucking burning mattresses in like at that guy's house."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, I've won. So that guy has to bend the knee, right? And we see him later on his big show. And he's like, oh, I remember. And I was like, even the fucking mattress guy knelt. Yeah. Right? And so he's like, I don't do this. I'm Lonesome Roads. I talk to you. I don't sell. They can fire me if this is my last show. As soon as he gets to New York, there's that weird him swimming around like he's at Lake Placid. Just chewing scenery and slapping asses of any secretary in the vicinity.
Yep.
Just talking about how he would sell Vitajex. Right? And then they do this wonderful montage of the Vitajex song.
Joey DePalma, hey.
Yeah, where he's just like on his show, like, it makes you fuck more, it makes you this, fuck like Lonesome Roads. Don't you want a boner? Don't you hate your bald spot?
Yep.
And it's like the way he fucking changed so fast because the couple people that'll remember won't care. Mm-hmm. And now he's got this massive, but I'm like, and I think that's what this movie gets at, right? Is that there is a narcissist and a con man in him. Right? He's been bouncing from place to place, using women, getting by, doing whatever, right? When these avenues open to him, I don't think it unleashes a great evil. I think every decision he makes, it falls back to his basic character flaws. But the stakes keep getting amped up and amped up. Yeah.
I think that's like, that's what, it's, power corrupts,
Absolute power corrupts.
Absolute power corrupts. Yeah, like it's just one of those things. Like it's said that way because it's true. And again, when people have the ability to safeguard their opinions with money and power and influence, they can say whatever they want because the consequences of saying whatever you want are so minimal. Like if you have,
in his case, they are an asset.
Oh no, but see, like this is the other thing too this is the thing I like about the movie. This is the thing I really enjoy is that they never show this other side, like because we all sit on the other side of the Fox News machine or the CNN machine or whatever you watch that.
Which that didn't even really exist when this movie was coming out.
No, this is like this is when 3 channels were available and the fucking Dumont network was around. Like it's like such a specific thing now, and that's what makes it so relevant. But like what I like about the movie is they don't necessarily, the other side of the argument is really like Patricia Neal and Walter Matthau's characters, like watching this happen as it transpires. But like,
Still getting
they don't
checks.
show the others, like they just show the people who love him and adore him. And like, that's like, but that's what I think is great about Elia Kazan's directing is it makes it so much more terrifying when all you see is the mob. Because when it's only two people who are seeing how fucked up this whole thing is,
Right.
and everybody else is like, look how great he is. Look at my dick. Like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, well, they have that line, right? When the colonel, right? Colonel Mustard or whatever, he's like, hey, I'm going to bring you this senator training, right? With Curly.
Yep. Yeah.
And he says, Lonesome isn't merely a performer. He could become an influencer. And he says, the public needs to be guided. We have the greatest weapon of mass influence, right? That by putting a Lonesome Rhodes out there to say what he needs to say to hook these fucking, the middle part, right? At the end, he has like 70 million viewers, which is a startlingly huge number, right? Like Super Bowl numbers. Mm-hmm. And all they have to do is just gently push him. Then all of a sudden, he's got the Cracker Barrel where he talks about his own political. But see, that's where it starts to slide, right? Once he starts like letting his opinions out about stuff, that's when it slides, right? Now it's not Vitajex, like, hey, this is good for you. Also, you know, it's a little on the sly, right? The more power he gets, the more he wants to display it, and he starts walking that line of tripping. Mm-hmm. And so that becomes kind of the fun act of the second part. But you watch her and Walter Matthau, they're still getting paid by him. They're still employed by him.
They're part of the machine.
They might throw darts at him downstairs, but they're still in on it until the very end. And one of the scenes that is fucking devastating is when he comes to her house in the middle of the night, her apartment, right? And he's like, I need you. And she's like, you've been fucking everything that moves, right? He calls her to his like penthouse. He has a lady leaving, right? He was just fucking this lady.
Yeah.
He comes over one night in the middle of the night and he's like, you know, I need you, right? I think he says he wants to marry her before or after, but there's that scene where he just kind of gobbles her up, right? Like, you have to fuck me. Mm-hmm. And there's this great push in on her face.
Yeah.
Where you see just the like weight of what's happening settling on her. Right? Later then he comes back to do the same thing after she met his ex-wife. And that's when she fucking runs, right? Like now she's like, oh shit. But it's, you know, you just get caught up in this thing. Right? Yeah. And you know, maybe she does love him. She found him. She loved him enough to put him on the radio, liked him as a thing. Now maybe she thinks she can save him, right? Maybe that she, you know, she's Frankenstein with his monster. Mm-hmm. And that scene is heart-wrenching.
I mean, right? It's just, that Ira Glass comparison's great. Like, that is really like what it is just, what do you do when you just have this, you see, like, it's one of those things, it's not even you seeing dollar signs, you're just seeing lightning strike. You're seeing lightning strike, and you're like, in slow motion, I can make this, like, something.
Yeah. I found this guy in a jail. Now 70 million people watch him every day.
Yeah.
Right? Should be a great story. Until you realize who you brought in, you know? Until you start
when you realize who they really are. And again, like, this goes to why certain people, again, Alex Jones is another one. Like, all these people who have, like, said terrible things or done just acted insane for the reason of just, it gets great press. Mm-hmm. It gets great ratings.
But he doesn't this is the thing, right? He's not like our guys today.
No, but he's the analog.
He is the evolutionary beginning of that kind of, I mean, humans have always loved a demagogue, like going back to like ancient times. But he has that line, I think when when he's trying to get her, right? Where he says, it scares me. We're getting in deep, Marcia. You know, you're my lifeline to the truth. So, like, even he is somewhat aware, oh, fuck, I'm not supposed to be here. Right? Like, and so Marcia is his, you know, she's the one who believed in him. Mm-hmm. So, in some way, he at least hears her. And that puts a huge fucking burden on Marcia through this movie. And I think watching that, like, at one point he fucking knows. Like, I'm skating on ice, right? Like, I'm selling boner pills now.
Yeah.
I'm selling supplements now in today's podcast, you know, cadence. But I think one of the scenes right after that, we see, "You're my lifeline to the truth." Oh, and I invented a applause machine for myself. He's gone. Like, that's the gone, right? Like, now he's gone over. And I think just watching this kind of avalanche of his behavior is startling.
Well, it's just one of those things. It's like, for me, it's always, when it comes to this kind of thing, it's like the chicken or the egg. Like, which came first? Like, was he always that person? And the reason he was in a jail cell was because he's that person. And when you found him and you put a microphone in his face and gave him a voice, he was always going to be that person. There was never going to be a time where he wasn't going to be that person.
Right.
I think
is dangerous. That's what Walter Matthau says, right? It's dangerous, the power that little box gives you. And you got to be a saint to withstand it. That's as he's marrying a child. He takes an actual child bride in the middle of the movie.
Lee Remick's film debut as well. Again, it's a lot of debuts in this movie, by the way.
It's a fucking great movie.
Again,
dude, Walter
it's just,
Matthau looking young but still old.
Yeah. Walter Matthau does have that
talent. I was like, look at that baby. But I was like, if you told me he was 23, I'd be like, yeah. If you told me he was 48, I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's always had that. People lived hard back then, right? Like just old man faces.
Well, Matthau did, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone was like, just
I don't know
chain
anything
smoking.
about Walter Matthau, but
I think in that, I mean, they still had cigarettes on I Love Lucy. I think everyone back then was just chaining constantly.
Could be. Yeah.
Just a lot of smoke. But anywho,
but
even that scene, right? So her like, oh, Lonesome's going to marry me. This is going to be all right. She's all excited when that plane lands, right? She's not in the Beatles crowd, but she's smiling.
Yeah.
She pushes through that crowd as she sees him pull out that 16-year-old. Devastated.
Yeah.
And then that's paired with probably the biggest piece of shit in the movie is Lonesome's agent.
Joey.
Who then takes that 16-year-old, props her up, and is pulling her skirt up so they can get, like, you know, some leg shots.
Yeah.
And see, so this is a question I had, right? Is Lonesome more despicable, or is that ad guy more despicable?
I mean,
because at the end, Lonesome's lonesome, right? Like, Lonesome's ex-wife said, Lonesome don't do courtesies for no one.
Yeah.
This guy built Lonesome, owns X amount of his empire, comes in and fucks his wife.
Yeah.
Then he's like, we're in business, pal. Sorry. And so Lonesome then does the "you're fired" to the 16-year-old bride.
Sends her back home.
I think that guy might be more nefarious.
Yeah, it's not a good look for Italian Americans, I'll say that.
I mean, that's why Amy's not allowed to hang out with you.
Joey De Palma. Oh, no.
Joey to pound it. You know what I mean? Hey, oh, hey.
I mean, here's the thing. It's interesting you bring this up because, like, I think that by default, advertising people generally are kind of scummy. Like,
well, that one guy dies of a heart attack kneeling before Lonesome.
Yes,
that's its own kind of sadness. This guy is like,
but that's what I'm talking. Like,
he's Al Pacino in Devil's Advocate.
But again, this is another thing about just like societal differences, and this is 1957, but I think we all knew it at that point. Like, in 57, TV is big. TV is the biggest fucking thing available. So I think we all know deep down by nature ads and ad people are, you know, this is Mad Men. This is what we're talking about, you know? Like, right. The very nature of selling products, selling items, selling people, selling themselves is dubious at best. Sometimes you find the product someone who's
fucking wild we haven't revolted against advertising yet.
I mean,
it's insane.
Well, great example though. And I don't know if you've like, this is something that I like probably in the last like 4 years I've noticed this. And you know, it's just the way it is. Like there's no other way to do it, but like TV, like TV executives, studios have all figured out, because there was a 4-year lull where they had no idea what they were going to do with declining ratings on network TV and that kind of shit. Like, the only things making money is like the Super Bowl, live sporting events. What are they going to do with these streamers? Mm-hmm. So they started figuring it out. And slowly but surely, we're all like accepting the fact like, oh yeah, that movie's behind a paywall, or oh yeah, like Netflix is going to do ads, like all these kinds of things. Like, to me, like, this is what I'm getting
Hulu's
at.
fucking ridiculous. I pay like $50 a month, and if my kids want to watch Dragon Ball Super, that's a 23-minute show.
Yep.
they watch like 6 minutes of ads for fucking children.
Yep.
And I mean, granted, probably a lot of like dudes in like Hawaiian shirts watch that too, but
sure. But then there's also this sensibility of, oh, you know what else we can do now is instead of, and this goes to Hulu, because like I pay, I can't remember what the amount is now. I do pay for ad-free Hulu at this point. Don't ask, because I
pay the full like super live TV one. That one should have no fucking ads if I'm watching on demand.
But see, here's the thing. This is the other crazy shit about that is now streamers can tailor ads to you. This isn't a market of like, oh,
There's
we got to sell.
nothing that makes me not want to give a company money than when they interrupt my show and say, hey, pick your ad and it'll be shorter.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. Like, that's
I'm like, I want to burn your company to the ground.
Again, there's like nothing about this. There's nothing about what we're talking about that I agree with at all.
Right. We're one of the only companies where we're allowed to advertise for medicine, like drugs. Like, hey, you want a boner? Go to your doctor. P.S. You can like bleed from your eyes and your tits will fall off, and like that's insane.
But this is what I'm getting at though. To the point of your question.
Bitching over.
What I'm getting at though is there's this inherent honesty in the mistrust I have for agents, executives, people who sell other people and products. I know at a base level, the end of the road is money.
Right.
So there's nothing about like, oh, you want to do something nice for me. Like, oh, like pharmaceuticals is a great example. Like no one who works in pharmaceuticals has ever said, you know what, besides like the people making the actual pharmaceuticals,
they know they're going to be famous.
Even those people know they're going to be famous and rich.
Yeah.
But like people who are selling pharmaceuticals. I just finished watching Fleischman is in Trouble, which was great. But it's the same thing where it's like, you people have way too much money and way too much power.
Okay, did you watch the new Madoff documentary?
Yes, I did.
They talked about the start of the suburbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how people wanted normalcy and conformity after the war. And they went out to the suburb and they had this thing. They're like, and the suburban citizen can become an unlimited engine of consumption.
Yes.
And I was like, holy fuck, if that
they
doesn't
said
sound...
It. They said it. It
how
was
many times
honesty
are you just on a podcast, a show, and you immediately, like, some podcast... I have probably 2,000 books in my house I haven't read. Because some podcasts will be like, they'll tell a story. I'm like, oh, this book is really fascinating. It has this one sentence in it that meant something to me. Well, I got to have that, and I buy it, but without even thinking about it. I'm like a fucking trained robot.
Right. The honesty of that, like in the Madoff documentary, the honesty of that moment, like that's on Front Street, and everybody in the 50s was like, you know what?
My thing is, though,
I could use that.
In the 50s, they had never been assaulted.
Of course.
By TV advertisement, right?
Right. No.
What's our fucking excuse?
Well, no. I mean, we're again, the socioeconomic and the layers that we have to go into takes way longer than we normally have to talk about.
Also, we're probably too dumb to do that talk. But
I'm also
I just
really
want Hulu
dumb.
to stop fucking putting ads on my on-demand show. If
I
I want to
need
watch 22 minutes of The Patient,
if I want to,
I don't want to see 6 Subaru commercials.
What I don't want to do is buy a Subaru or get Cialis pills.
Sorry, Dad. Represent Subaru. My dad works at Subaru. Represent. I heard that new Outback is sick. We're not getting paid, so it's honest.
Friend, have you seen a Subaru lately?
Dude, next week, if I'm slinging Subaru, we'll know that my moral fiber is weak.
We'll know that you loan some roads yourself.
I'm putting this out there right now for the universe. I will loan some roads myself to anyone.
But I will too.
I'm in.
Listen, I am a whore. I know who I am, all right? I know.
Yeah, I got my Wada hundreds, my Magnum condoms. We're ready to plow, advertisers. Call us up.
Bring it. No, but like, here's the thing. I think that obviously Joey is a fucking monster. Like, he is the untalented.
He's the same as Lonesome. He fucking knows exactly what's going on.
He is the untalented person who finds talent. Like, there's this thing, like that thing about like, if you can't teach gym, that kind of thing. Right. People who can't teach
you
gym.
Can't do teach. If you can't teach gym.
Right. Like, for me, a lot of the time, people like in movies like this, and I'm not saying like I know plenty of agents, they're all wonderful people and that kind of thing, but like in movies like this, they get painted in a way of like, if you can't do anything productive, be an agent or something like that. Like
he sees the mattress fires and immediately is on the phone to like New York.
Right.
That's what I mean. It's
part of the game.
The devil takes many faces, right?
Yeah.
And he
So I'm not
finds
sure
a literal face in the crowd and usurps it for.
Right. But I'm not sure.
If he's just selling boner pills, that's one thing. They're usurping him to try to put people in the highest seats of power.
Right.
That's where it changes. Like, if you're just, like, you know, Alex Jones didn't get sued for all that money because he was selling, you know, fucking gas station horny goat weed.
No.
You know what I mean? You can do that shit all day.
Yeah, of course.
It's when it crosses.
It's this really fascinating. We do live in this sort of world where it is a matter of crossing a line. Like you were saying, like, and he totally did. Like, I would never, ever defend anything that guy has ever done.
Who? Lonesome?
No, Alex Jones. But
yeah.
Lonesome
Dude, he's
is
still out interviewing Kanye. Kanye out Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, like, even after all that, he still has some fucking... I mean, he's back like Lonesome Rhodes. You're diminished, but you're still there.
Yeah, you're diminished. Again, see, and that's like... The end of the movie, like... Walter Matthau's thing. Like, and I love Walter Matthau in this movie because he's all of us watching this movie. Even though we all won't admit that we all want to be lonesome. Like, be honest with yourself.
Let's put it this way. 9 out of 10 people who watch this show or listen to this right now or see this movie would sell out everyone they love and everything they believe in to be in Lonesome Rhodes' spot. Like, almost everyone.
And look,
hopefully
that's also,
when you're there, you're not as nefarious. But
right.
You would
that's
sell
also
out
not a judgment.
immediately.
That's just like logic. Okay, like,
dude,
that's
on the Tales from the Grift miniseries, me and Cloud put a challenge out. If someone on the internet can give $1 million non-taxable, you can cut my ring finger off.
It's true.
Money talks, dude. Money talks. You want to chop my finger off? Come up with $1 million untraceable.
$1 million non-taxable. That's my life. Like, that's fine.
I want that shit in the Bahamas.
But I really think, like, I think that's what makes Lonesome such a compelling character, and that's what makes that ending so. Because again, like, for a movie like this is like a precursor to Network for me. Because, like, I see this a lot. That's where the
Network is the guy who I think still thinks he's on the right side, realizes he's not.
Right, but
right, Lonesome fully. This is kind of Did you
so
remember
I say it's
Akira, right?
Sure.
Akira, right? The kid who just becomes part of this thing and starts blowing up and he can't stop it. That's how I think of Lonesome in this movie.
No.
He wanted the power, but it's out of control.
I think you're absolving Lonesome of a lot of...
No way! He's a bad, evil guy, right? I think in that scene, there's that one scene where he's talking to... I can't remember who, but he's like talking about Curly's ratings. Okay. Right? And I think when he's even talking to Curly, right, you see this look on his face. And honestly, I hadn't seen this since college. And I was like, he's going to announce. He's going to run. Right? Because he sees that fucking power and he wants it. Either him running or not, right? He is reveling in how bad this has gotten. How nefarious he can be. How he can win them back, right? Sure. They're his. They do whatever Lonesome wants. I'm not absolving him. I think that he is a man who is so far in over his head that he cannot, like, just the fact, if you're a guy who gets all this luck, right, and you're on the Cracker Barrel, right, and you're talking on the Cracker Barrel, and you don't have the discipline to not fucking talk shit about your meal ticket for but 2 minutes, you're a dumbass. Like, you're a dumb guy.
Sure.
He's just a guy who got in over his head, and he believed the fucking hokum he was slinging. I think it got out of control on him.
Again, this is why I feel like the precursor to Network is this movie, because this movie really is about the critical mass that the media begins to play. I mean, this is 57 too. So really what this movie is about for me is the critical mass the media begins to play in creating these people that we see on television. Like, and look, you can find there are absolutely going to be Walter Cronkites in the world who are just there to report the news and tell you that's the way it is.
That guy probably had some kind of dungeon somewhere too, dude. We just didn't know.
Look, that's fine.
I still don't believe in Mr. Rogers.
I mean, I'm not going to get into that. We've already talked about that before.
When this pod's over, we'll have another rousing discussion.
No, we won't, because whatever you have to say is false.
For sure that they're going to come out. He had a property, probably in like Wyoming, over by Lobo that no one knew about.
Oh,
Josh is going to be making the greatest documentary ever about Mr. Rogers' unmarked graves.
just stop. Anyways, it's one of those things, but like this movie is about the beginning of that critical mass media where, and again, that's why you can draw a correlation to network, because network is about the critical mass audience that creates these people. Like, this is about a guy seeing what he can do with an audience. Though network is about what the audience does to us, does to the people that are making the content. Like, everybody, no one in network is infallible. Like, no one in network is a good person. Everybody sucks.
Yeah.
These people, including all these people, suck too. Just Marsha and I'd say like Marsha and Lonesome are a little more honest about it because they know they suck. Like, there is no like Walter Matthau's character Mel gives that wonderful moment at the end where he like says pretty much what everybody who does this to themselves life's going to be like. Like, you're not going to be super famous. You'll be a little bit famous, but you'll have your audience.
Yeah,
like, you're
going to be back in TV, but you won't be the same. Someone will say, hey, remember him? Let's give him a try.
Like, your level, like that level of popularity and prestige, for instance.
Oh, that's the line. One day someone will ask, whatever happened to, what's his name? Yeah. And then he goes over and he's like, Beanie, hit my track, and makes him hit the applause to his own speech. That was a boss move of Mathau. But no, because the scene starts almost like a horror movie scene.
Yeah.
Where you come in and he's screaming, I'm going to make him, he's doing his thing. And Beanie's just down there hitting the applause. He's literally demagoguing to a crowd of no one.
Yeah.
And you see this man fully break, right? Because the scene before, he was getting racist at his dinner no one came to. Kicking everyone out. He's like, I'm going to kill him, whatever. You know, because on TV he said, I'm going to make him eat dog shit and think it's steak. Yep. You know, whatever, right? And they go, he's a monster. They're all going to see it, right? So again, all these people are but think of that scene too, dude. So as he's walking to the elevator, like, bye, Mr. Rhodes Express, going down. He's like, all the way down. And while he's in the elevator, we have the cancel culture calls where they're canceling him like a motherfucker.
Yep.
And he doesn't know. And so he's losing his mind. He's like, Masha, when I'm back, and it was me, Larry. I did it. And you see all of these last, it's like that It's a Wonderful Life shot, right? Where they're throwing rocks at the last couple glasses in that shitty old building that becomes George Bailey's prison for the rest of his life.
Right.
That's what's happening in this moment.
Well, right? That's like, dude, when he threatens to kill himself and she's like, goads him a little bit, like pushes him for it. I'm like, there it is, man. See, like, that's that like terrifying realization of, oh shit, it's not real. There is like this level of like, that's the thing that makes Lonesome Rhodes almost like, that's like the only tragic portion of this to me about that a person like that is like, you've duped yourself into thinking this is real. Like, whatever is happening to you is a real thing. Like,
there are thousands of Lonesome
It's
Rhodes.
all Fugazi.
They rarely ever have to fucking face the mirror.
Yeah.
At this high, like at the end when they're leaving, right? Mm-hmm. And, I think they had that line, right? We get wise too. That's our strength, right? He's not getting wise. He's at the top of that building like King Kong screaming, don't leave me. And we don't even see him again, right? It's Marsha's moment. We watch her.
Mm-hmm.
But he's no longer a face in the crowd. He's a face way, way above the crowd that we can't even hear now, right? And so I think this idea of plucking someone from one of us, right? And, oh, my God, we made it. We're on TV. We're not like fucking, James Corden or whoever everyone hates. We're normal people. We're like us.
Right.
And you just realize that normal people can't survive these environments.
Right.
Right? You can't be the one with all the power and all the fucking money and not change.
Yeah.
I think it was Bill Murray who said that, right? And I know he's in trouble now too. Like he had said that, I think, when he was young. He's like, give someone, once they like make it, check in with them in 6 months. And they'll know if they're gonna like adjust or not. Right? Yeah. Like, are they gonna be cool or are they gonna be the guy? Do you know who I am? Do you know what I do? And I think sadly most people can't hang. Right? I mean, most people, even good people, right? You give them Elon Musk money, 100,000 social media followers, and just this army of fucking losers that tell them they're the new Jesus.
Yeah.
that has to change who you are. It absolutely has to change you at a genetic
fundamentally level. Yeah, at a molecular level, it changes you as a person, because then you are no longer just you, you're them.
You're what they have written you to be.
You've now separated yourself from the person you were before and the person you are then. Like, it's again, like Lonesome
Look at The
Roads.
Rock, dude. He was Dwayne Johnson. Now he is The Rock. He is a fucking parody of a man.
Well, no, he was The Rock, and now he's Dwayne Johnson.
Well, I mean, when he was a younger guy, right? He was Dwayne Johnson, son of a wrestler, college football player. And then he's like, ooh, The Rock is pretty... Now he's like, I'm The Rock and Terramana and Zoa and Black Adam. Like, he's not a human being anymore. He's like, look, I fish, but like no one fishes with like 6 people there to like film it and talk. Like, hey, I'm spending times with my daughter, but there's 8 guys in the room doing media. You know, and it's...
Well, I mean, this is like...
I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying...
No, I get it. But like, this
survive in that kind of ecosystem.
Well, I think what you're talking about is the... What you're talking about is the crux of reality television, which is what is actually real.
Which none of it is reality.
None of it's real. Like, I can tell you...
It's impossible.
Yeah, no. It's absolutely impossible.
I remember Amy was watching The Hills on MTV. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh, well, that's a setup. And she goes, what? And I was like, yeah, they're not just going to have a jib set up by the pool in case someone comes up the stairs.
Yeah, no.
You know, like,
it's a real...
And they're all perfectly mic'd. And like, I remember telling my dad that when I worked on Thousand Ways to Die, my writer's room was right next to the writer's room for Storage Wars.
Yeah.
And he goes, why would they need a writer's room? And I go, oh, poor dad.
I mean, I tell people this all the time. Like, I'm just like, I work on a lot of shows like this where they do recreations. And you worked on Thousand Ways to Die. Like, that's literally entirely recreations. Like, those kinds of things are so disingenuous. Like, I always think when you do that, especially on shows about people who've been murdered, like,
we made ours so intentionally disingenuous.
Yeah. Like, that's like there's a pastiche to that. Like, I worked on a show that just came out on Hulu that we did recreations for, and I was just like, what does that do for the story? Like, we all know this person got brutally murdered, so like, why are we telling us?
The true crime thing is, like, just imagine, like, I can still picture Jean-Benet Ramsey face, but it's like on a missing poster.
Yeah, me too.
And so this whole, we love these monolithic personalities, but we love to destroy them.
We do.
So I don't know what came first. That's the chicken and the egg, right? Why do we build these people up and give them power? And this movie's kind of a simpler time version of this, right? Where it's like they just really liked this guy, this old Arkansas traveler who reminded them of themselves. So maybe back then they were legitimately duped, right? And then they found his real feelings and it hurt them out. Now we know that the Kardashians is not real. We knew that, you know, fucking Real World is not real. Like, why do we still... But even more than them, right? Like, worst case scenario, some bar's just going to lose an extra 20 Jaeger bombs, right? Yeah. Why do we do this with politicians, right? Obama was like that, right? He became this bigger than politics personality, right? We fell so in love with him.
Yeah.
It mattered so much to us, right? Mm-hmm. Trump was like that for his people, right?
Absolutely.
Like, he is this... He's not even... They make pictures of him... I went to a flea market in Pennsylvania. They have his face like photoshopped on Rambo.
Oh yeah, there's like, I mean, if you look back at the hit, like, so this was 1957. Who was the president then? Like, this is also post World War II, where we saw the rise of Hitler. Like, that's a terrifying
that
thing.
Kind of era, yeah.
Eisenhower, the bomb, like that whole thing.
But no one had like fan clubs for Eisenhower.
Sure they did. I like Ike.
JFK, monolithic.
JFK is monolithic because he's young. And because he was a new spirit. He was also Catholic, which is a huge deal.
New and different in politics. Yeah.
Right. So, like, to me, but then if you really think about it, starting with JFK, we see idolatry in politics, like true idolatry.
Right.
And that, well, really, actually, if you go back, you probably see it.
Reagan,
you see it in McCarthy. McCarthy had people who idolized him.
But why? This is, I think, the thing the movie's asking us, right?
Right.
Why do we need these messianic figures? Why do we love this so And now you see it in sports. You see it like my son's guys are like Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Like, it's just something in us. We love someone way up there talking down to us. I'll never figure that out. Especially Americans. You think we'd be hey, don't tell me what to do, hey, oh.
I think that apparently we're all Italian Americans from
when we're mad. When we're mad. That's how Syrians talk too, first off. How dare you?
That's good. I really think that this is
hey, my hookah over here. I'm hookahing here.
I'm not saying this is a cop-out, but I really think that what it boils down to is your own personal, like, this is the part that's like your own personal take. Like, why do we do this to anybody? Why do we do this to public figures?
It's not just us. Like, the worst example of this is Hitler, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But
this happens
why
all
do
the time.
Why do humans do that? Like, I think because, and this is going to sound grandiose, I think because God is omniscient, and because Jesus was a person. Jesus was the first literal messianic figure. Yeah. When God is a person, it's contextual. You can understand. Right. And if God is a person...
Every culture of that era had a Jesus, right?
So if you have the person saying the word that is law, that feels like, oh, that's real. Like, it's not just there's something that solidifies what it is. It's the seeing is believing thing. Right. And I think that is the really hard truth about separating politics and truth and honesty and all these other things is like when you see a person tell you this is what's happening, look at those people, they're causing this problem, or hey, I got this great boner pill.
I mean, I had a friend the other night who was like, imagine living in a communist society where you couldn't do this. And I was like, I feel you. But I was like, let's not act like we're not also in the machine. Right? Like, we get to buy shit and we get to yell at the other side. But like, have you ever voted and been like, that mattered? Like, I helped out. Like, what I wanted and what I voted for came true, and it made a difference.
Even societies that claim they're communist societies aren't like...
But this is why,
Russia?
Whether you have a king or communism or democracy like we do, right? Democracy where it's not really communism. The same. Like, if your vote in Montana, your vote counts more than people in California. Like, it's not really like X amount of citizens equal an electoral college vote, right?
No.
The fact that we have an electoral college lets you know that our system doesn't truly value our votes, right?
Right.
Fine. Take all that aside. Maybe we got it better, but I think what this movie's saying is that anytime there's someone who is up top, really stop and examine. Really stop and look at them beyond the words, beyond the pageantry with flags behind them, whatever. Really stop and look at these people that you are giving so much power to. Right? And I think the reason that no one wants us to do that is because I don't know not many people can pass that, right? It seems like maybe just Keanu Reeves. Like, he's our one. You know, like, maybe Dolly Parton, we got like two.
It's just, it's a very, very, very difficult thing I think it's a very difficult thing to separate people like a Lonesome Rhodes from like we say this all the time. There's the person and then there's the act. And I think
brand,
that's like, the brand is, now it's the brand.
Yeah.
The brand is very hard to separate from the person. We talk about this when it comes to great actors who've had to bow out, who've been Me Too'd, for good reason, by the way. Like, you know, like when the Kevin Spacey stuff happened, you and I had a long conversation where it's like, do you separate the work from the guy? And you're like, well, what is your take? Like, brutal. It's like
I mean, I don't think I've watched a Kevin Spacey movie since.
I haven't.
Maybe like Glenn Gary, because that movie he just gets insulted the whole time.
Yeah, like Glenn Gary, he's just getting berated the whole time, and
but it's hard.
But like it's difficult to separate the person that you're like, wow, that person's very talented, from wow, that person is an unmitigated monster.
Right.
So
this is the fun thing about the movie. It has become maybe more relevant as it's aged, right?
Oh,
these things have extrapolated out to such a level, and I just think it's very smart, right? We all think that we're one step away from being rich, from doing this, from doing that. We all like you see it on TikTok, and everyone wants to be fucking famous. No one wants to be a face in a crowd, right? And so, yeah, that's what this movie hey, take it easy. Look at these people. Examine who you are giving the money and the power and who's like, you know, Joe Rogan tells you to go buy some fucking, you know, triceps pills. maybe read about it first. You know what I mean?
Give it a read.
Or if you just want to be a skinny puss your whole life and not have triceps. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. I think this is it's one of the movies that has just gotten better with age.
It's
and Andy
horrifyingly
Griffith
relevant.
Is a fucking sledgehammer.
Yes.
Like, could have won Best Actor this year. Like, he was so fucking phenomenal in this movie. So that's it for a face in the crowd. That's it for politics. Ew, gross. Yeah. Moving on. The pod will continue our resolutions. Alex, what do we have up next?
Oh, we have Try More Adventurous Eats with The Menu.
The Menu. Hot movie right now. Everyone's watching it on HBO Max.
Everyone's watching HBO Max.
Fucking great movie. Can't wait to talk about that. The pod will continue our resolutions. We have great stuff for you over on patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. You can support the show for as little as $1. If you can't support financially, we get it, man. One thing you could do to help, send a show to your friend. Say, hey, you might like this, man. Check it out. That kind of word-of-mouth Ponzi scheme is how we're going to fucking build our own applause machines and our own.
We're going to Madoff ourselves into your
Just
homes.
because we live in a penthouse above you with an applause machine doesn't mean we still won't be with you guys. We're different.
We're different.
We're different.
We're Griffey's Orson for the peeps, and I'm just this Patricia.
Dandino might not be different, but I am. I am, guys. I can make that promise.
See, that's why Griffey moved back to Indianapolis, so he can do this Lonesome Roads bit, even though we all
right,
know.
I came back to... If
there's one coastal elite in the room,
I just like real Americans like me. I'm a lonesome Hoosier traveler.
There it is.
Anywho,
there it is.
$1 a month,
Don't listen
guys,
to him, listeners.
All right. Seriously, I'm one of you. I put my fucking Target jeans on one leg at a time like everyone else.
Here we go. There it is.
All right. Dandino is probably the problem. I'm Walter Matthau. That's fine. But yeah, guys, if you can't support financially, let someone know, man. Text them an episode. Leave ratings and reviews wherever you find us. Those things are free and easy and help out a lot. If you want to see our faces, YouTube, Film Alchemist. You want to email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. That's it. I'm losing my mind. Because I'm like you. I got a job. I got kids. I got bills, a boss. Oh, my God. It's so hard being us. Go to patreon.com and pay for someone like you. That's all I'm asking.
Not even justifying that. See ya!
Cultural elite over there. He doesn't need money. He lives on the West Coast. That's all. Bye!